Every cycle, the same question comes back. When does alt season actually start? And right now, with a lot of altcoins still sitting deep, way below their highs, I understand why people are asking. The problem isn't necessarily direction, it's the timing. And that's what we're testing today, because you found two previous periods where the broad altcoin market spent a long time down in the same kind of zone. And both times, the major move came after the market actually exited the zone, not while it was still sitting inside it. So we're going to look at two examples, work out exactly what happened next, and then apply the same rule to where we are today. Right, Oz, start with what you're actually looking at. What is the chart that you're looking at that measures this?
Yeah, so hi Doc. This is actually the others chart, right? So this is the top cryptocurrencies excluding Ethereum, Bitcoin. So you're left with the broader altcoin market, what a lot of people invest in. So that's the current chart I'm actually looking at for when discussing or looking at the bigger altcoin moves.
Now, Oz, basically, a lot of people are just checking, price. And this is something that you're not just watching a price on it.
No, you know what it is. The thing with price, you can look at price, but and obviously levels and level to level and things like this. But for me, I don't just look at price here. What matters is where the altcoin market sits against its own longer term trend. So you can see even in this kind of market we've had over this last few years, the altcoins didn't do a blow off top. They didn't even, they had one move back in 2024, but they didn't during, like what a lot of people thought, that as Bitcoin gets past its high, that altcoins are going to continue. So again, the altcoins follow their own internal cycle. So this chart actually gets scored from 0 to 100. Past bottoms sit at the bottom of that scale, and obviously the tops that comes in with its own chart history, and it's nothing that I decide. I look at the measure 0 to 100 and we see where we are.
Okay, so low here, Oz, when you're talking about low, does this mean, for the benefit of the viewers, does it mean it's cheap?
It's a good question, because everybody will think, yeah, just buy on 0, sell on 100. It's not that easy. Low just, means that the broader, altcoin market is stretched below its own trend. So, whether that is cheap, it depends on, what happens next. So, and that's the whole point in this video. It's not just as simple as looking at 0 and looking at 100. And hopefully we'll explain that soon.
Now, mentioning that this has only happened twice, Oz, I think this is something that really important to cover in this video. So show the viewers these two instances.
Yeah, so if we look at, look at the first instance, right? So this was from, 2018, and it it ran through April 2020, right? So this was a long, I think it was about 90 days during that time where altcoins were just in this bottom zone for an extended stretch. So you can see from all the way from here all the way down to here, it was just in a bottom zone.
And through that whole stretch,
you can see yourself, you can see fake breakouts, bottoms. It's just sideways. Nothing is really happening. Occasional breakouts. Where things happen, and maybe an altcoin does 2 to 3x, and then you come back down to the same price. It's just chop. And because you can see at any point it looks like it has to be the low, but it actually wasn't. So when you're in this sort of bottom zone, it's just choppy. Yes, you get occasional breakouts, false starts. You can see it from quite clearly from here. December 2018 up until June 2019 is it broke out. The altcoin market cap did break out, but it wasn't the actual breakout. Then again, you see another false start here. Then again, back down. So you have a lot of false starts within the bottom zones.
Okay, so that's the first episode. Oz, now regarding the second episode, what can you show us?
Same sort of thing, right? So you got the same sort of thing. So look, this is the second episode, starting from all the way from May 2022 up until September 2023. So again, this is and I think is similar sort of 90 days, maybe longer. Just a stretch of choppiness, same behavior. fake breakouts, moves up and down until, you get that breakout. So once you're in this bottom zone, a long stretch of nothing, frustrating, very frustrating. I understand, you can even see it this kind of cycle where a lot of people are frustrated about altcoins. Are they going to go? Are they not going to go? What's going to happen? Are we just going to get this fake pumps 2-3x and then crash back down? So, that's what, that is the two big stretches that I've seen.
Yeah, so this type of behavior was because a lot of people would basically worry about this. And this is where the question comes now, looking at these particular 2 episodes, what separates them from a real move?
To be honest, it's the exit. Okay, the exit of the indicator, right? So it's not actually being in the zero, as that would be probably logical. People would be thinking to yourself, I'm at zero, I'm just gonna buy. You can do that, but you might be frustrated, as it's as I have been myself, right? You be frustrated, you can be frustrated for months, years, right? But your average price may be decent, but you're just you're buying things when they are really, really choppy. But both of these moves happened. The big moves happened once, after the zone ended, not during it. So during it is kind of like guessing, but and you have to think about it. It's probably what most of what opposite of what people expect is, when you exit the zone, then you buy, rather than buying in the zone. Now it all depends on your patience and how much you're willing to take, and and the false starts, but the exit is the key.
Okay, so meaning if someone did actually buy within inside the zones, Oz.
If you bought inside the zone, right? Like now, like if you bought right now, maybe a bad example right now because you never know, we might be exiting the zone. But if you bought, let's say in this last 6 months or last 5 months where you're in the zone, right? It's not bad because you might be wrong, right, for a long time because it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. So eventually you're probably right because you're in that bottom zone, but your average price might be fine. The only thing, and this is where I really emphasize it, your patience is probably not fine, because look at this zone from September 2022. May 2022 all the way to September 2023. Look at this zone from basically you're looking at July of 2018, or you can say December 2018 all the way to April 2020. That is a hell of a long time just to be in a choppy zone, and it's nothing to be nothing to shout out about. So it's your patience. Your average price might be fine. I've bought in these certain areas. I remember in the 2019-2020 cycle myself buying, in 2018, buying in April 2019. I remember buying actually in the summer here, then buying again here in September 2019. And then finally, when you get out of it, it's all great. But, there are choppy moments, and it all depends. A lot of people, you can see yourself now, Doc, a lot of people have left crypto. They can't take it anymore. So, and you're in the bottom zone. You've been in the bottom zone for ages. So it's just that, it comes, down to that, in my opinion.
Yeah, Oz, look, you mentioned trying to conquer yourself mentally and being clinical about this. So, when it comes to an actual rule, what is the actual rule that you would use? Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm talking about you explaining your rule to the viewers.
Now, for me, this rule is quite simple, right? There's 2 parts. It's not complicated at all, right? It's, it's not complicated. You clear the bottom band, not touch it, but you have to clear it, not just spike over it. So the bottom band is like that 20 zone, right? And then you hold above it for about 3 weeks. Once you hold above it for about 3 weeks, that is my rule. That's when you enter.
Why Oz? Why 3?
The problem is 1 week is a bit. It can get, if you spike about 1 week, it can be a false start sometimes, right? And then you just a fake out, and then it's happened before, right? But 3 weeks normally drops the noise. There can be fake outs. Don't get me wrong. Even within 3 weeks, there can be fake outs. But 3 weeks, I've found generally it's something that will give you 3 weeks of holding, and something has changed. So that's my sort of rule. If it comes back inside the, so say it breaks out and then comes back in, and then you have to restart. If it breaks out again, you got to wait another 3 weeks. So that 20 zone, this zone here, this bottom band, within this bottom band, this whole bottom band at the bottom, if you buy in there, don't get me wrong, you're probably going to get frustrated because it's going to chop. We've seen that twice before. Wait till it breaks above the 20. You buy wait 3 weeks and then you buy. That's how I would do it.
Would you say that's something that's checkable?
Yeah, it's the point of it. You got 3 weeks, or, you either get 3 weeks or you don't. So, if it holds 3 weeks, 1, 2, 3, the problem is everybody's so obsessed, right, about the actual bottom, the bottom, right? And, they want to get the best prices. I understand that. Now, if you want to do that, right, you can do that, but you have to then endure, endure the choppy periods, maybe the downside, and that's different, right? If you can do that within this time, then that's up to you. But the clean rule, you either get 3 weeks, you don't, there's no judgment call. This is a systematic way. There's nothing else. You break above, wait 3 weeks. If it's done, you buy. So that's checkable.
Okay, Oz. Now, point of this video mentioning 2 particular episodes. Holding above that for 3 consecutive weeks. Check call. But let's look at the honest part. Would you say there's anything wrong with this?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. There's only two. There's only been like in this sort of indicator that I've done, right? Sort of indicator that I've done. There's only been 2 instances. It does the history won't go back. In that there's not enough data for 2016 altcoin market, but I suspect I've done a few calculations that it runs similar, but nevertheless, it's only 2 instances. 2 instances, is not a massive amount of data. So that's one problem with this. I would say quite clearly. Another thing is survivorship, because this is the index. There's coins in there that may have slipped out, of others, and you'll never know. So this is the index. So some may have died along the way and they slipped out. So some other coins get into the index and it looks better. So, that's the kind of issues that you'll have, that I found, that I think are honest and is willing to, to share with everybody personally.
And the index versus what holders actually hold.
Yeah, that's something, the index obviously, is doing something. Does not mean your 3 coins in your own wallet is going to do exactly the same thing. The index generally, let's say it goes 80% or 100%. Some coins go further, some might go in nowhere. So this is just a broad index of others. Generally, though, what you would say is that obviously if others goes up, your coin should go up as well, right? Probably a lot more than the index goes up. So that's the experience that I've had with it. But, we can't distinguish it. We have to say it plainly.
Okay. And yeah, Oz, I mean, looking at the actual moves, what about, you have anything to share about the moves themselves?
Yeah, so look, even when it worked, right, it's context, it's not a signal, right? So you can see as it goes up. So even you look at 2023, right? So it's not always a straight line, right? It goes up, you get ups and downs, but it tells you when the altcoin market is now expanding. It doesn't tell you what it's not going to tell you exactly what's going to happen, but it's going to tell you when things are. You can see it from the 2 markets, right? You can see it quite clearly. You can see this one here is parabolic, right? Completely parabolic. You can see this one in 2023 was good. Don't get me wrong. There was coins that did 10x and so on, but this one there was coins that did 50x. So and there are other factors to that. That's more different kind of analysis that I think anyway that we do. But just plainly on the altcoins, it will tell you that when it's ready to break. It's not an actual signal in terms of buy here, sell here. It will tell you when things are ready to break, and also when things are overheating.
Okay, now Oz, looking at the chart that you have in front of you, because everybody's watching this video today, it's important, to discuss where does that actually leave us today.
Yeah, so this is the key thing, right? So if we look at it today, right? So from October 2025, no, actually, let's go November 2025 till where we are today, which is August. This has been in the bottom zone, right? In the bottom zone. So this has been in a bottom zone for not as long as the previous periods, mind you, right? So if you look at the previous periods, they were a lot longer. So this has been in it for, about 30, 45, I would say about 45 weeks or something like that, right? And what you have to understand is in the deep zone. So this is in P17. It's not at 20 yet, right? So within its own trend, what it's telling you is that altcoins are cheap, okay? So it's telling you altcoins are cheap, and we're still in the zone and there's no exit. So, that's what it's basically telling me. altcoins are cheap, but we're still in the zone.
Okay, you're mentioning that Oz, you're still in the zone. You're giving an honest answer. Possibly the same that you would have given a month ago. And the rule hasn't triggered. But what if it does trigger? What would you do?
If it triggers, then it's the same as everything else. I'm not gonna call it early. It needs 3 weeks to prove it. Right now it hasn't. Obviously, if I said everybody go buy altcoins right now, and it's gonna go crazy, that would obviously everybody get hyped up and start buying it. But what I will say, and what I've said on X, what my analysis believes, because what you have to understand is not just altcoins. I'm looking at Bitcoin, I'm looking at Ethereum, and my takes on them and where they're going. So I would have to assume that this is going to break. It's going to hold for 3 weeks, and we're going to get a massive altcoin run. But that's just me. That's me estimating or analyzing or inferring what's going to happen. But what actually, if I'm looking at it pure black and white, just from this indicator, I'm saying to myself, right now, it's not broken. It's close. It's not broken. Once it does, I'll call it. Once it holds for 3 weeks, obviously, if you're a DJ and you want to get right in now, that'd be my guest. Do what you got to do. But looking at this indicator, I would say it hasn't broken yet.
Yeah. So to summarize, broad altcoin markets against its own trend, bottom zone. 2 previous episodes both moved after the exit rather than during it. The rule is clear that we mentioned. The band and hold it for 3 weeks.
Yeah, and we accept the 2 examples. It's thin. I'm not going to say it flatters itself. I'm not going to say there's so many examples. It's 2 because the altcoin market is in its infancy. The moves took drawdowns. You can see even here drawdowns. There's drawdowns within the bottom zone. It happens, right? And this one drawdowns as well. So that's the framework. So it's honest. It's in front of you. Obviously, what I think is going to happen is based upon this and a lot of the analysis we do. But so yeah, let's say it's going to be interesting though as we look at this and analyze this week by week.
So there you have it. Now Oz does track this weekly along with where Bitcoin and Ethereum sit in their own cycles in the members cycle read at the Markets Unplugged. And if you want to judge the work before paying for any of it, we publish a monthly record of every call made and how it turned out, hits and misses in the same table. And that one is free and you can check the links below. So there you have it, and catch you in the next video. Thanks.